You're going to have to give me a minute. This is nuts. Always begin with gratitude. I've got to thank so many people, but firstly, I think the triumvirate of women, I think, that made this book what it is. It's odd. You go through the process of getting a book published, you're so aware of how little you really do until you write the book, but so many people are behind how this thing gets into the hands of readers. And first of all, Marianne Harrington, who's my editor, Sophie Lambert, my agent, and Georgina Moore, publicist, who's just a whirlwind of a person. I promised her I'd call her the Michael Jackson of publicity when this sort of thing happens, and I mean it, she's that. And this is nuts, because I grew up in the sort of place that's described in the book, Neasden in northwest London. And I've often called it a nowhere place. It's not the sort of place you really grow up, it's the kind of place you drive through to get to nicer places. I've always thought, like, yeah, I'm from there, but I don't need to represent it because there's no one cheering me on, because there's not so much a community when we're in a place like Neasden, because no one really needed to know each other there. Again, it's a place that's sort of cleaved open by a dual carriageway. If you do end up there, you're there for a moment before you set your feet straight and move on. And so, I don't think of the place as too much part of me. And part of the reason I wrote the book was to sort of get out of my system. But then I tend to think of the other nowhere places in the rest of the country and elsewhere, places, little place in places like Manchester or Liverpool, or place in Scotland, or I'm sure places in Wales too. And I think about the young people that have just about got stars in their eyes and thinking about doing this kind of thing. Because growing up in a nowhere place, there's nothing around you that reminds you or tells you that this sort of thing is possible. And it's crazy, like it's difficult to articulate how honestly impossible this feels to have happened. But I think about, like, there's a motif in the book where a lot of the young lads in the book tend to look upwards. And I don't presume to think that anyone would look up to me, but I'm sure they would look up to this kind of thing and see me up here and think, well, look, he's done it. He made art out of where he's from, and that's a good thing. So maybe they'll look up and see themselves. I got to thank my wife too, because without her, nothing is possible. Thank you so much. Thank you to the judges. Thank you to all of you. Thanks.